everybody. How's that for the title, eh? Age-long or like millennial-long question, right? Chicken or the egg? All right. So, but anyway, how is Russian winter treating you? I prayed and prayed for years and years for God to deliver my homeland experience for all of you. And here you go. This is how I grew up. Real winter. Everybody staying warm? Yeah? Do you guys need this mic? Yes?
Yes.
Some of you are going to sleep. Okay. So, you're probably wondering, what the heck? Is it like going to be a farming lesson or oh, he finally reveals the mystery. Which is it? Right? What is first, chicken or the egg? Anyway, I chose this title, it's kind of catchy, right? Keep everybody awake, like, oh, what is it, right? But really, we're going to talk a little bit about some principles of universe that we have, right? That we all learned. I'm sorry, probably some of you will go back in history when you were young, and for the first time you heard it, it's like, oh, have you guys seen the movie Ratatouille? When that critic ate, the flashback to childhood. Maybe you'll hear something like that. I don't know. But when we look at this world, right? We have so much right now. We're using phones, we use this mic, we use that, all kind of visual aids, right? And but people just even 150 years ago lived very primitively, right? We used a horse and a buggy for how long? I mean, centuries, right? Centuries. Were people more stupid back then? No, right? Had the same brain, everything was, the same. For some reason, technology wasn't so advanced. I don't know. People say this day and age it's because the advent of the Messiah, right? That's one interpretation, right? The advent of the Messiah. And so technology had to advance in order to what? Spread the message across the world, right? Messiah's message. Same thing happened in Jesus' time, right? Roman Empire. They built roads everywhere. Looks like for the glory of the empire, but really it was preparation for Jesus to spread the message, correct? Yeah. So when you think about it, right? All this technology, advancement, everything that happened in the last, 100 years, right? Just 150 years ago, buggy and horse, now what? Spaceships, right? Crazy, planes, we fly. You can go to Africa just to visit. Back then, if you go to Africa or Russia on a ship, most likely you are not coming back, right? And then even if you go, nobody will ever even know, did you make it? Right? Remember, even in the 90s, right? Or 80s, right? You couldn't just oh, where's my wife, right? Your wife is spending your money, in the store and you don't even know it. But it's so convenient these days. And no matter how advanced we are, right? No matter how progressed we are in our technology, generally speaking, human nature internally never changed. We still hate each other. We still engage in war and fighting. Hey, in my mind, it's like such a dissonance. Is it dissonance? Yeah. Things don't match, right? We say we're gonna go to Mars, Elon Musk, right? We're gonna save the planet by driving electric cars, and we have Ukraine. Seriously, people? Really? Or we have, Gaza and Israel. We have, it's mind-boggling, right? So why do you think that happens? Although we studied and we understood physical laws very well, right? So for technology to advance, we have to understand physical laws of aerodynamics, laws of thermodynamics, everything. We studied so well. but internally we didn't really advance very well. Why? Because people are still ignorant of internal laws, right? Ignorant or, yeah, pretty much ignorant, right? Either don't want to know, and then. So, I understand, for me including, I don't like to live by rules or laws. I'm kind of free-spirited. I like to do what I want, right? However, right, and we want to do things by love. We want to love each other freely. But even love, right, has to have certain, what? Parameters or borders, right? And then people receiving kind of, I believe it's from spirit world, some kind of inspiration. Love is the most important thing. Yes, it is. But then what happened in the 60s and 70s in the United States?
Free sex.
You know, free sex, everything. So love is the most important thing. However, without certain rules and laws, the love becomes like what? I mean, like nuclear bomb, right? It's the most powerful weapon we have is nuclear energy. But without direction and certain laws guiding it, it becomes explosive, right? And kills people left and right. Even God has to obey the rules of love. Even God has to follow those rules. God cannot just abandon, and do whatever he wants. He needs to follow certain rules. And so, I know it's maybe not inspiring, but I want to talk about today first kind of rule or law of universe. Chicken or the egg? Or cause and effect, right? I want to talk about it today. So which is, I think everybody believes in God, correct? I mean, some of you maybe don't, who doesn't believe? Anybody? Ray? Believe in God? We believe in God, and then I hear, there's podcasts, right? Okay, so we have how much? So I have 40 minutes, right? All right. So there's podcasts, right? And then, anybody heard of Joe Rogan podcast? That guy, right? Yeah. And then there's all kinds of podcasts, and they invite people to talk about spiritual things, right? But when you think about it, all they talk about is right now they're just trying to prove if there is something out there. Is God real or not? Joe Rogan once had a podcast with a guy called Stephen Myers, right? And the guy is, he's a scientist, but he's a Christian scientist. And he scientifically proves that there is God, right? So, people so engulfed into materialistic kind of mindset that even existence of spiritual things for people is like, whoa, right? There is something out there, right? Like Roland loves watching UFOs, right? He sent me some documentaries. There's UFOs, some people really believe in them and they saw them. I believe in UFOs, but what I think is the spiritual experiences that people having, I don't know, maybe there are. Nonetheless, the level that people discussing God is either he exists or not. That's the power of unification movement and true parents, that we go much higher. Of course God exists. Somebody said, even Satan knows that God exists, right? So, the greatest weapon that Satan can ever pull on human beings is convince that what? He doesn't exist. Even Satan doesn't exist. If you don't believe somebody doesn't exist, then you cannot believe that they control you. Correct? So that's where the level of people's understanding of God is, does he exist or he doesn't exist? That's it. But we want to go above that level. And how does principle describe to us? How do we know that God exists? By what? Can I have some water? Please, thank you. How do we know that God exists? Principle explains it in a way that you observe it through nature, right? So, principle tells us that if there is a painting, most likely it didn't come together by certain atoms and molecules coming by themselves through evolution, right? Too organized, correct? Too organized, too nice, too beautiful for it to exist by accident. So, what this unification thought or principle teaches us about God is that God doesn't just exist, but He has probably certain characteristics, and why we need to understand who God is. Because if we understand what God is and what His characteristics are, then we can maybe understand what? The purpose for which He created us. If we don't understand who God is, if we just know He exists. Have you heard of a guy called Richard Dawkins? Older guys, younger people don't know. He's an English, outspoken atheist, right? And then all he does, God exists, God doesn't matter. So if you prove that God exists, you're still not out of the woods. Even if you believe in God and you go to spirit world, you're still not going to end up in a good place. Right? I mean, look at Lucifer. Has full faith in God's existence. Where is he? We don't know. Maybe right here. In Washington? Most likely. I think Lucifer visited Washington quite often. Goes on the trips. I don't know. So, for me, it's like, okay, well, you found out God exists, so, right? Of course He does. But doesn't make you more happier. It doesn't make you a better human being by knowing that. But understanding that God possesses two things, well, four really, but two primary ones. Original Song and original Hyungsang. Wow, flashback. Go back to your youth. Remember your first lecture? Hyungsang, Song. You're like, what? What is that word? And then the word is, Hyungsang is original internal nature and original external form, right? Oh, and you're inspired, right? And so what does it give us? So God has original internal nature and original external soul. So what? So what does it mean? So God created everything by following physical laws, right? Does God have a body? Actually, He does. It's universal prime energy, right? Everything around us, touch Paul, touch Mila, touch me, that's God's body, physical body. He exists through us, right? And He has to use physical laws in order to create all these things. He put His energy into it. So God's body is right here, all around us. Does God have internal nature? Of course, His heart and love, right? So what calls me a human being then? Paul touched upon it, right, last time. What's the difference between a human being and an animal, right? You talked about responsibility, right? True. But most animals, I heard all animals don't have something. They have mind, animal mind, instinct, but we're the only ones who can be mediator between two worlds, right? Physical and spiritual. Why? Because we also have we also have Hyungsang and Songsang, right? We have spirit and we have body. That's what makes me a person. I'm not a dog tolik, right? I'm not some kind of different species. Species? Yeah. Species. I'm tolik, right? And I'm a person. So God has a Hyungsang and Songsang makes God who? A person. It's very important. God is a person. He's not just a being sitting on a throne, some kind of alien thing, just kind of, I bestow upon you my powers. You deserve my love, but you don't deserve my love, right? He feels exactly what I feel. He thinks exactly how I think. Of course, better, probably. My brain is very small. His feeling most likely more intense than my feelings. But He's a person. And when we understand that God is a person, completely changes everything, our relationship. with God. It's not just a being that coldly created the universe, spring out of my heart. And you all, pathetic humans, be grateful for me. Right? You at the womb of my finger. Not like that. Right? How do we know that? Because I have a dog, Gus, and Roland has a dog, Moko. So I'm going to talk about Moko, sorry. Gus is like always sleeping and eating, but Moko is more exciting. Roland takes Moko on canoe trips, right? Yeah. And then he goes on these rivers and we climb the mountain. And then we climb the mountain and Roland comes out and goes, wow, so pretty. And Moko goes, yeah. So beautiful. I've seen this one bear climb the tree and go, wow, what a sunset. I'm so lucky I live in this beautiful forest. Have you ever seen that? Yeah. Have you heard of it? Yeah. I've heard of buffaloes reflecting at the end of the day. So how was the grass today? Was it juicy enough? I don't know, right? That's a beautiful prairie right there. God created for us. No, right? We're the only ones. You climb the mountain and you see beautiful sunset and you go, something happens in your heart. Or you see beautiful sunrise, right? Something, bam, happens in your heart. I don't know, none of us, maybe Dr. Wilson does. But, if he sees the sun, he goes, whoa, what an interesting combination of molecules and ions. I'm just kidding. Like some people maybe do that. It's like, wow, if you look at the snowy mountain, right? You don't go like, I wonder how that, crystals of ice gathered together in such a particular way to create a white covering over there. We don't do that, right? Although scientists study that. But as a human being, when you see something beautiful, it touches what? Your heart. You see trees, meaning what? That person with Songsang and Hyungsan, yes, he used physical laws to create all that, but he made it beautiful. Why? Because exactly the same feeling he wanted to feel, like us. We don't want to live in a gray world where everything is red. Imagine everything is red. Trees are red, sky is red, earth is red, water is red, your wife is red, husband is red, right? I don't know. Nobody wants to do that, right? So why? Because we possess the same thing. And if God feels that way, He created for us to enjoy with us. Means God wanted to share this beauty with somebody, correct? Yeah. Right? So it totally changes. If you think that way, it completely changes your perspective how God wants to be part of your life. Winnie said today, right? Not just on Sundays, not just during your prayer life. God wants to share a beautiful food you cook. Right? All these things, yeah, sure, we make a beautiful, God gave us creative nature to create a beautiful dishes, right? We create, but all the ingredients provided by who? By God, right? Why? Because He wanted to tell us, I'm so excited to see what you're going to cook, Roland, with this panna cotta, whatever, right? And, get Starbucks card or cookie. So, that's the beauty. But then there is another set of characteristics, which is secondary, right? To a primary characteristics of Songsang and Hyungsang. I have mind and body. My wife has mind and body. But two of us are two different beings, which are, she is female and I am female. Oh, I'm just kidding, male. Right? I am male. Same with God. Why? Why? If you think about, of course, there are some horrible parents. There are some parents, I've read some parents dumping their children in the trash cans or anything. But just normal, let's take normal parents, right? Every parent loves their children to the point they want to die for them. Correct? No, I mean, this is what also different from us and natural world, like animals. Yes, animals will fight for their offsprings, but eventually when it comes to it, they'll abandon their offspring because they're programmed if I survive, I can produce what? More offspring. They'll protect, they'll fight. But if it comes to it, to die or live, they'll abandon. Almost every time. Trust me, I know. I'm a nature guy. Human beings are totally different. We will die for our children. Anytime. And in fact, if somebody asks you, would you die 1,000 times? Like 1,000 times you would die. You would resurrect and die again. Resurrect and die again. That's how intense the love is. And the love can only come from mom and dad. So God is not only a person, but He's also a parent. This is the most powerful revelation that your Father uncovered for us. The most powerful thing that we can actually experience. God is not just a person of love and beauty, but He is also a person of parental love. And He's ready to die and lay down everything that He can for you, for us. Right? Or no? What do you think? Yeah. So if God is like that, then how are we supposed to act and behave? Right? The same way. We have to behave the same way, knowing that God is a part of our life, knowing that God is the origin of everything we have in our life, then we have to behave the same way. So, our internal state, again, why I'm talking about it, because our internal state is very important of how our life turns out to be. The most precious things in our life, if you think about it, are mostly invisible. Correct? Like love, friendship, right? Compassion, all the things you cannot see, even in the physical world, the things that move around. Like, of course, we can feel heat, right? We can see light, but for example, electricity, right? Or radio waves, or magnetic field. All these things actually make life on Earth possible. Without magnetic field that we cannot see, we would be fried by the sun. You know that, right? So most of the things in our life are invisible things that are very important. So how we think, our thoughts, our feelings, are actually very important. And what we see, who God is very important. I want to talk about fire. Can I talk about fire? I'm going to blow your mind. Can I blow your mind with fire?
Yes.
Please.
All right, I'm going to put the fire down first. You've never heard fire, like I'm just going to explain. Anyway, God created all these things for us to learn. Right? The physical things. What's the purpose of physical world? To train us for the next world, right? Your father, your mother talked about it many times. Like in the womb, right? In the womb, we develop our lungs, eyes, but we don't use them, right? Our nose. But when we come out, you go, oh, I see now. Everything's nice. In spirit world, the same thing. We go to spirit world, but the problem sometimes is that I think with religious people mostly, or people who are entrenched in ideology, we become, or they, us of course, they become in their mind a lot. We become in our heads more than in our practice. Maybe you heard expression, people will believe in religion, people will kill for religion, people will murder for religion, people will rape for religion, people will expand and conquer for the sake of religion. Everything but live by it. And that is true to almost every, true of Christianity, true of Islam, true of, well, maybe not Buddhism, I don't know, or Confucianism. Is Confucianism a religion? Actually, everything can be a religion. Even atheism is a religion, right? You really believe in it. I mean, you have to believe that God doesn't exist. It's like a faith. Also, what is it called? Global warming is religion, right? These days. So, become a lot in our heads. And once we become in our heads instead of our hearts, it becomes very difficult to live by the cause and effect. Right? We don't move anything. So, fire. You've seen fire, right? You've seen candle burning, you see campfire, right? You've seen maybe a wood stove. At my home, there's a wood stove. Fire, and that's it, right? Simple. Not so. So why does fire burn? Tell me. Material? Okay. Yeah. So we know that fire needs fuel, oxygen, and heat, right? To burn. 3 things. It's a tripod. Right? So why does fire burn? Why can't you just take a piece of wood, put it right here, and burn? Put more oxygen. Oxygen travels all around the wood. It can go all around the wood for thousands of years and nothing will ever happen. It will never combust. Do you know why? Actually, what is tree made of primarily? Carbon. Actually, what are you made of primarily? Carbon. All of us are made primarily of carbon. And did you know that oxygen and carbon really love each other? They love each other so much that they want to be together all the time. Like they want to, right? But there's a thing called weak nuclear force, or repel. Oxygen comes and bounces off. For thousands of years, atoms of oxygen just come in contact with carbon and they want to go together, right? Nobody blesses them, right? True Father bless. So it's like you have a rolling ball, right? And there's a volcano, right? And then you know the volcano, and there's a hole. You roll the ball up, and then goes down. And almost going over the threshold, and rolls down. This is what happens, literally. What do you need for the ball to go over? Yeah. So atoms, how does temperature decide? Sorry, it's kind of a little bit scientific. I know kids will go to sleep right now, but you old guys, stay with me, all right? They vibrate, right? That's what heat is. Atoms vibrate. That's what heat is, right? So we need to make them vibrate more, right? And that's a heat. You give a little bit more heat, and then ball goes whoop, and then oxygen and carbon snap. They snap together, literally, because they love each other so much, like a husband and wife. Snap in bedroom, right? And then when they snap, what happens? Energy is released. Energy is released, and then that energy released in form of photon and heat. And then when one atom goes over that little bump and snaps, it creates energy and heat that gives opportunity to other atoms to go over and snap. So 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16, 16 becomes 32, 64. That's why fire happens instantaneously, because it's uncontrolled chain reaction. Right? I mean, some wet wood maybe that are not right away, but if wood is dry, fire happens very quickly. It happens really rapidly. And a lot of energy is released. Right? So, what is tree? How does tree produce the carbon? What is tree made of? What does tree grow from? What does it get its... What does a tree grow from? Everybody knows that you can see trees sticking out of the ground, right? So, they did an experiment in 1600s actually. Young Baptiste, a guy in Holland. He put a tree in a pot, big pot. He measured the weight of the soil. He put a seed, And then he waited for a couple years for tree to grow. Tree grew huge, several hundred pounds. He took out the tree, shook everything, and the soil almost no change in weight. Just a little bit, some minerals left. But tree became many pounds. Heavy. Where does tree grow from? General misconception is tree grows from the ground. Wrong. Tree grows from the air. Tree takes carbon dioxide. So when oxygen and carbon snap together, what do we have? Carbon dioxide, right? So tree takes carbon dioxide, but it hates oxygen. Oxygen is it's poison for the tree. Actually, oxygen is poison for the tree. So what does it have to do? It has to rip oxygen out of molecules of atoms of carbon, and it takes carbon from the air and builds its structure. How does tree ripping these molecules apart? How does tree rips molecules of carbon dioxide apart? No, photons are produced when they snap together. But you're right. Actually, tree doesn't do anything. Sun does. The energy of sun shines on the leaf, and actually the work, sun does all the work. The photons hit the leaf of the tree and rip the atoms apart. Tree stores the carbon as a structure of the energy that sun provided, the heat, the photons, and spews the oxygen out. Where does oxygen, all the oxygen in the world comes from? Trees or water, right? Ripped, it's byproduct, but we breathing it. It's actually poison for the trees. Carbon dioxide, they love carbon dioxide. So, what happens when you burn a wood? So, it releases carbon. When you see a tree burning, what you actually see, sun is shining back at you. The sunlight that was trapped in the tree as a structure now released back at you. So every time you light a fire, you actually see sun shining back at you. Amazing. It can grow for hundreds of years. Tree can grow for hundreds of years. And all that sunlight is stored inside of the tree. But the moment it's released, you can see that beautiful sunlight. Fire is energy moving by snapping oxygen and carbons together. The same exact thing happens when you eat food. You are literally burning fire inside. You breathe, the atoms of oxygen go inside and they snap together with carbon you consume. But they do that on controlled, slow basis. Your cells know how to control. They just need a little push. Everything in a little push. What does give a push in your body? Enzymes. They speed those atoms up, and you actually have a fire inside of you. Right now, burning carbon. And then what do you exhale? Carbon dioxide. Because those atoms of oxygen and carbon now snap together, release heat and light, give you energy, right? That's why you're warm. You warm? Yeah? Okay. That's why you're warm inside, because there's a fire burning inside. And then you breathe out food for the plants again. So again, everything's shining. The same thing happens internally. God can raise you for years and years and years and years. And all this God's love is stored inside of our hearts. No matter how bad maybe experiences that happen in our life, but actually it was God's love stored inside. It just needs a little what? Push, a nudge, right? It's you as a material and